What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 5 landing locations for Cam Newton. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick, the biggest news this week was that Cam Newton was released from our beloved New England Patriots, and now, obviously, he's looking for a job, and this is not what we expected, but it's where we are. And taking a look at the landscape of the NFL, there's really not a whole lot of openings where I could see Cam Newton going to start right now. So he would have to be okay with taking a backup role unless he wanted to wait for a possible injury, which obviously I hope nobody ever gets injured. But if he waits for an injury, then he could possibly start. At this point, doesn't look likely. So I have a couple of ideas of where I think Cam Newton should go, and just wanted to have a conversation based around that. So starting off, the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have been rumored to have interest in Cam Newton. Cam Newton has been rumored to have interest in the Dallas Cowboys. I think that he could run the same offense that Dak Prescott runs. It's a vertical passing option with a lot of QB runs built in. Mike McCarthy's system would be really good for Cam Newton. I think that he would be a really nice backup option for the Dallas Cowboys, especially when we saw Dak go down last year. They were left with Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert. Well, Ben DiNucci's on the practice squad and Garrett Gilbert's with the Patriots. So what we'd like to see here is Cam Newton go from the Patriots to the Cowboys and be Dak's backup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Cam Newton, he's not a starter in the league anymore, in my opinion. I just don't think that he belongs as a starter. But this is a great spot for him to be a backup because what Cam is still great at being is a leader. He's a guy who can really take control of the locker room. Even if he's not the guy, he can still be a motivator for Dak Prescott and the rest of this offense. And I think that's exactly what they need. You've got so many young weapons on this Dallas Cowboys roster, and I think that Cam Newton would be a great weapon to have when they're in meetings, when they're on the sideline. He'd be a great guy to have around.
Yeah, I like the Cowboys a lot. I think the fit works really well. But one of the other possible scenarios would be going to their division rival, the Washington football team. The Washington football team head coach is none other than Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was there in Carolina when they drafted Cam Newton. He was his head coach, went to the Super Bowl with the guy. They know each other pretty well, I would say. And Washington football team, listen, their quarterback is Ryan Fitzpatrick, who isn't always great. You know, he's got some stretches of really good runs in his career, but at this point, he just seems to be a placeholder for the next guy to come up. And if Cam Newton can reunite with his head coach, I think Ron Rivera is the guy that can really find a way to utilize Cam Newton the best way he knows how. He knows this guy inside, outside, and every way around, and I believe that Cam Newton needs somebody like that to be in his corner to help him understand. And listen, for Cam Newton, he would come into a system where he already understands the offense, how it's run, he understands the terminology. That this would be a really good spot, I think, and honestly, we're just waiting for the time where Ryan Fitzpatrick needs somebody to come in and save the day.
Yeah, when you look at all of the quarterbacks on this Washington roster, you've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, and Kyle Allen. All three of these guys have had good seasons before, but they have not been consistent. And we know from Cam's tenure in Ron Rivera's system that he has had consistency and that he can succeed in the system. So I could definitely see Ron Rivera trying to get somebody he knows definitely works with the style of plays he calls. And I think that this could be a really good system for him to be in. We saw them reunite on the sideline last year when the Patriots played Washington, and we saw that in the preseason this year as well. I could definitely see these two getting back together with how much they enjoy being around each other.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to put stock into the fact that when Ron Rivera got to Washington, he didn't pick up Cam Newton last year, but the idea was that there were too many quarterbacks in Washington as it was. Remember, Dwayne Haskins was still there. Alex Smith was coming back. Kyle Allen was still there. On top of the fact that they had so many other younger quarterbacks that they needed to see what they had. And Cam Newton decided to sign with the Patriots. And by that time of evaluation, Ron Rivera didn't have an option to go back and get him. So I believe that this is really good timing for these two, and Washington makes a ton of sense. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins, and I think the Dolphins need to have an asterisk next to their name because I believe that the Dolphins are in the midst of making a huge trade, and that would be for Deshaun Watson. But the issue is that Deshaun Watson may not play this season at all. And honestly, they're going to need a quarterback because part of that trade package to get Watson is going to be incumbent quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. I believe that Tua goes to Houston, and then they're left with Jacoby Brissett. That's not who this team needs at the helm. They need a bona fide leader. They need a guy who's going to come in and really command this offense. And Cam Newton, while he's going to have to learn for a couple of weeks, can be thrust in that position. He can run a dynamic offense. And who better to go to stick it to Bill Belichick, the guy who just cut you, and say, I'm going to your division rival and I'm going to make sure that you remember my name by the end of this season. I believe that Cam Newton can play spoiler to the New England Patriots if he goes to the Dolphins. He's going to be in a great system with some really great weapons. Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. They got incredible wide receivers and tight ends out there, a great offensive line. I think that this would be a really good spot for Cam Newton.
I think this would be a much better option than Jacoby Brissett if Tua ends up going to Houston, because Jacoby Brissett, he's got an average arm, but he definitely lacks the leadership that you need at the quarterback position. And I think that's why he has not progressed since his time in New England. I think that Cam Newton taking over this offense, he gets something that he didn't have last year, and that's a ton of weapons. And he's in a system similar to the Patriots where he can kind of ease into that system and take over that position pretty seamlessly. And I think that Brian Flores could definitely figure out a way to get this passing game going. Even with Cam Newton struggling passing the ball, I think that he could be an excellent thrower with those weapons that he has there in Miami.
Absolutely. And we're judging Cam Newton based on what we've seen in the preseason this year and what we saw in the season last year. When you take a look at the weapons that the Patriots had last year, there's a reason they went out and set a record for most money spent in a free agency period, because they realized how bad the offensive supporting cast was, and that's what they needed to upgrade. So I like this fit for Cam. He's going to have a lot of big name weapons around him. And honestly, this only works if Tua ends up going to Houston and if Deshaun Watson isn't playing for the year. So really big ifs, but good fitting nonetheless. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos just went through a very tumultuous quarterback battle. It was neck and neck all the way till the end. Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, they were in lockstep all the way through, and then all of a sudden Vic Fangio decided to call it and say Teddy Bridgewater was going to be the next quarterback of the Denver Broncos. I don't think that the Denver Broncos want their guy to be the best of the losers. I think they want a bona fide winner. And when you get Cam Newton, you're getting a former MVP. You're getting a guy who's going to come in and take ownership. He's going to take leadership of this offense. And all the weapons that we talked about with Miami, Denver is an upgrade even from that with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Deshaun Hamilton, Noah Fant. You name it, they have it. Their running game is better. Their offensive line is better. Their defense is better. So he's going to have more opportunities to get on the field. There's so many better things that Denver has to offer. And if you're telling me that Cam Newton is looking for a job and they had to settle for Teddy Bridgewater in this quarterback battle, I'm telling you, maybe you have another quarterback battle in practices and see if Cam Newton can beat out Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. I think that this would be something that they really need to focus in on and could be the reason that they can compete in their division.
As I said, the Miami Dolphins are a system he could fit in, but to me, the Denver Broncos are a very similar system to the Miami Dolphins. They've got stellar talent at the receiving position, solid running back, and then a pretty average offensive line. But when you put it together, I think this is another system where Cam Newton can have success. And then when you look at the quarterbacks they have, Teddy B and Drew Lock, these guys are just average quarterbacks. They're not going to stand out and do anything special. And Cam Newton definitely has a step above these guys. And I think the Denver Broncos are overall a much clearer path than any other team we have talked about so far.
Absolutely. And finally, we have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans now have a general manager by the name of Nick Caserio, and Nick Caserio was the guy who brought in Cam Newton in New England last year. So he has some familiarity with Cam Newton and what he brings to a football team. He understands what he's getting into if he brings in Cam Newton. And when your starting quarterback is supposed to be Tyrod Taylor, I believe that Cam Newton can obviously push him for a starting position. Now, the weapons in Houston are not as great as they are in Denver or in Miami, but he will have an ability to get behind the center and really command this offense. This is going to be his team. And while it's not set up for greatness, he's not destined to get to the playoffs, he can really light a spark under this team. And with the veteran talent around him, especially at the running back position, with Phillip Lindsay and Mark Ingram and David Johnson, these guys can continuously rotate out and really get a dynamic rushing offense that is going to stymie the defenses that are really built to stop the pass in their division versus stopping the run. And when you have Cam Newton, he can run himself. So I think that there's a lot to this that could really work for the Houston Texans. Get him to a one-year deal. That's what everybody else is on the offense. So get him on a one-year deal, and I think you could really see what you have in this guy. Maybe you give him an opportunity to showcase his talents in a different system that will allow him to stretch the field a little bit more with better talent than he had last year, so on and so forth.
This is by far and away the best opportunity for Cam Newton to be a starter this year in the NFL. When you look at Nick Caserio being the general manager and his time with the Patriots last season, all the previous seasons, he's been with Cam. He understands what Cam's about, and he's been bringing over Patriot talent throughout the offseason. He's been trying to replicate what Bill Belichick has been doing for many years down in Houston, and what better option at quarterback than to get the guy who is just in that system, who knows that style, who plays with that certain demeanor. I think that Cam Newton fits the mold that Nick Caserio is looking to put together in Houston. And I think that this is a much better option than running with Tyrod Taylor as your starting quarterback. I think this makes them a little bit more diverse on the offensive side of the ball. Tyrod Taylor is a mobile quarterback himself, but he lacks accuracy, and Cam Newton is a much more accurate quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. And when you look at the running backs, last year Cam Newton was getting accustomed to dumping that ball off to running backs and screens and just using them as his safety blanket. Now he's got a litany of running backs, including the one he loved the most last year, Rex Burkhead, who's coming back from injury. These guys had a true connection last year, and I think they could bring that back to life in Houston. To me, this team makes the most sense. They are primed for Cam Newton to be their quarterback this season. I'm just waiting for it to happen at this point.
I mean, you're talking about Brandon Cooks, Rex Burkhead, and Cam Newton. Houston really is the cast off of New England. All right, well, I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments down below where you want to see Cam Newton end up, and let us know if you think he'll be starting next season. I'm really interested to see, and I'm interested to see where Cam chooses to go. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.